All right, let's go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's LinkPoint Connect webinar. My name is Jill McConaughey. I'm the Manager of Marketing and Customer Success here at LinkPoint 360. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day for our presentation. So Salesforce adoption and reporting are absolutely key to determining CRM ROI in an organization. And driving that return on your investment is certainly a challenge, as many of you know. But integration software is something that can definitely lessen that blow. So use cases for email integration can vary, and LinkPoint Connect is designed to make it easier for users to work from their inbox while meeting those CRM and especially those Salesforce goals. So today I'll be presenting some common examples of how companies have optimized their Salesforce data while letting users remain in their email throughout the day. And before I get started with the presentation, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping notes. All attendees are muted and placed in listen-only mode for the duration of the webinar. In the GoToWebinar viewer, you can also make the presentation full screen for easier viewing. You can feel free to submit questions for me or use cases in the question section of that panel. I do also have a few questions I saw that came in through the registration process, so I will do my best to cover those as well. And we'll have a Q&A at the end of the webinar for anything I might have missed. I am recording the webinar, and I will absolutely send a link of this recording out to everybody later today. So a little bit about LinkPoint 360. We've provided email integration solutions for over 17 years now, and our focus has always been on enhancing end user productivity while also improving CRM adoption and ROI for organizations. We do support a variety of CRM and email platforms, with both our standard and custom integration and the ability to deploy software in a variety of environments, as you can see on the screen. Now, LinkPoint Connect is designed to streamline how users work between email and CRM systems, either by adding information to that CRM or viewing the CRM details within the email itself. We currently now offer 3 editions of our software, which address different use cases and customer platform requirements. You'll get to see each of these in action today, but as an introduction, Desktop Edition is our classic version. So that's a direct PC install where you'll record emails, you can create new records, and you can sync your calendars, contacts, and tasks. Our Plus Edition includes everything that Desktop has, but it adds an extra layer for meeting notes and call logging. This can be done either from the side panel or a dedicated mobile app. And finally, our Cloud Edition. It's the most recent edition and offers an alternate for companies with a mix of cross-platform users. Since it's a server-side product, there's nothing to install, and it will run wherever users interact with Exchange or Salesforce, including Mac and mobile, which we understand is a big need for customers who have cross-platform, a mix of users, remote users, and people out in the field. So today what I'd like to do is start the discussion by sharing some common use cases that customers have come to us for and things I've helped people puzzle through along the way, and how we've solved those email integration challenges. And again, I'll stop to see if there are comments along the way, so feel free to put those in the GoToWebinar panel. But today I'm going to cover the following topics. We'll talk about recording select emails, and then we'll look at how to sync emails automatically. We'll talk about finding a solution for email integration if you have a mix of users, again, that Mac, mobile, PC combination. We'll explore a little bit how you can do meeting notes or enter those from multiple devices. And then a common use case I always run into with customers is getting everyone to update those calendars for reporting purposes. So again, we'll start here, and if you have any other questions, we'll address them as we go. Let's see here. So let's start with email recording. And hopefully everyone can see my outlook. Email recording is the #1 reason that customers turn to us for, especially Salesforce integration. All 3 of the editions that I've sort of highlighted briefly do support recording select emails. Desktop and Desktop Plus are going to be PC installed products, so you're going to see those within your Outlook as you see here. And you'll know you have this solution because you'll see our side panel here on the side. We'll have some buttons up here at the top. And the functionality when you're recording emails is essentially the same for inbound and outbound emails. It also works the same Desktop and Desktop Plus editions. So in this example, I have an email, and I'd like to record this into Salesforce. And all I have to do is locate the buttons in the top left for our record function. And you can do one of 2 things. you could choose the Smart Record option. And what that will do is it will check the to and from fields and look for email addresses on the email. It'll look to see if there are matching records in Salesforce with those email addresses. And if there are, and you click the button, we're going to automatically record that email for you to the matching records. Now, this record button here, and I'll go ahead and click that, is going to do the same thing a little bit differently. We're going to check Salesforce for that matching record. You can see here we looked for Fred's email, and we found him. So the window is going to recommend the record to record to, but we're also going to give you the opportunity to change that search, look for a different contact if that's more relevant. Perhaps it's from a partner and you don't want to record back to the actual contact. And you can also look for related records. So in this case, I can also choose to record back to an account or an opportunity or case, etc. Out of the box, this supports standard objects, but we can customize this for you if you're working with custom objects. And when I click the Record Now button, it will sync the item back to Salesforce. Now, just to show you, if I were composing an outbound email, maybe I'm going to do a reply here, the buttons are almost identical. So you would compose the email as usual, and you can choose the Smart Send and Record or the Send and Record. The only difference between the two is that during this process, we're also sending that email for you. So fairly straightforward. And with just a few clicks, you can get select emails back into your CRM. Now, what happens if you're on a Mac, you're on your phone, you have a mix of users across different devices? That's where our Cloud Edition comes in. And with Cloud Edition, you'll notice the first thing is I'm in the web browser. And I've sort of jumped ahead here and set up my test account. But everything for Cloud is set up with sync settings through the browser through a Cloud account. So there's nothing to install. Currently, there's no side panel or record buttons. And the only thing I'd have to do is go down to the email sync, click this little edit button here to launch my settings. And if I only want to sync specific emails, I would select this designate option, which will tell our system not to sync every email that I send, but to sync certain emails. Now, the great thing about Cloud Edition is that it integrates at the Exchange level. So it doesn't matter if you're using Outlook, if you're in your webmail. Let's get out of this for a second. I can go right into my webmail, and you'll see there's nothing installed. So I'm just logged in as my test user. And as I'm getting emails in or working with emails, I can simply designate, and you'll see I'm selecting a CRM category here. And all I have to do is add that category. By doing that, we've put a little label on the email, and we've told Cloud Edition, when next time the sync runs, take a look at this one and look for matching records in Salesforce. If you find one, record it. So again, you can do this from any device that has categories enabled. That's mainly an Outlook function. And we also have a Smart Address option, which if anyone's interested, I can certainly talk about that a little more offline, but it's a secondary way that you can designate. So all three of our editions do support actually recording select emails back to Salesforce. Now I'm keeping an eye over here to see if we have any questions, and I don't see any yet, but certainly if anyone has any about that use case, I'm certainly happy to answer them. So I'll keep an eye on that, but I would like to keep moving because the next topic or the next use case really does tie into the first one. So another common question that I get from customers is, how can I automatically sync all of my email? So maybe I'm not trying to get it back to a specific record, or I have users and I need consistent data capture across my organization. Well, our Cloud Edition, again, is going to be the best way to do that. Our Desktop and Desktop Plus don't have an auto sync feature, but Cloud Edition does. So if we go back into that browser and we launch that configuration screen, you'll see the option I skipped over on the first one, which is the attempt to sync all emails. And what selecting this option will do is it'll tell our system, anytime you send an email out or receive an email in on any device, mobile, Mac, PC, webmail, etc., where you have access to that Exchange account that's connected, we're going to look for matching Salesforce records on the email, and if when we find them, we will record that automatically for you. The best part about this that I find with customers is they love the fact that for this version, the end users don't have to think about the record process. The sync is configured in the browser, it's set and forget, and users can go on and send emails as they need to without having to think. Another great thing I like to point out, a Cloud Edition at a really high level, you'll see this navigation that I have up here at the top. Without getting into each level, what this means is as an admin, if you run the Cloud Edition account for your company, you can actually set those settings at higher levels. So for example, I'm logged in as Sally, she's my test user, and anything I do on this screen is going to affect just Sally. But I could certainly go into my subscription and set the email settings for every user in my account. I could even lock them down, so I have a consistent data flow across the board. Profiles act as groups, that's sort of in the middle, so you can group your users if you have different process flows, let's say for different teams or maybe in-house versus field rep, etc. So it's just another nice to have. I'll check to see if there are any questions before I go through. I know I'm going over a little quickly here. And while I kind of see here if anyone has any questions, I kind of want to segue into a use case I get a lot where we have customers looking for a solution that's going to work for a mix of the PC, Mac, and mobile. So maybe you have users across the board using different platforms. For me to be able to recommend the best LinkPoint solution, I always like to answer with a question. Exactly what are you trying to achieve with the email integration? And it's something to kind of take a couple seconds here and think about. If you want all of the emails to auto-record, then clearly the Cloud Edition will cover all users on any platform, regardless of how they're accessing, as long as you have an Exchange and Salesforce account. If you prefer your PC users to have access to the side panel that I showed before, it is possible to actually purchase or work with multiple editions at a time. So you can use, for example, this Cloud Edition to set up and coordinate the email autosync, but then you can also leverage the desktop or Plus edition to gain access to that side panel. When you're purchasing more than one, we do recommend you work with our professional services team just to make sure the two don't bump into each other because they do have a little bit of overlapping functionality. But that is an actual option. So I understand that sort of asking people what are you trying to achieve isn't really an answer, but at the same time, we do encourage a conversation about it because while we do offer different approaches, sometimes a combination or one or the other may be the recommended approach, especially in an environment with cross-platform users. So on a different note, we also began noticing a few years ago more and more customers were asking us for options to log meeting notes or to log calls. So a lot of what we do here, even internally, is email centric. So we have the record functionality, we have the side panel, but a lot of customers are also on the phone a lot. So while the use cases for this vary, we did hear a lot about reps that are in the field, meeting with accounts in person. There are in-house teams that are making calls or interacting with customers. And capturing the details that come from those interactions definitely began to tie back to Salesforce ROI. So it's one thing to tell your teams to make 10 calls or to have 15 meetings or whatever those metrics may be, but it's another thing to see what yield you're getting out of having those users actually do those calls or have those meetings. So we designed our Desktop Plus edition to meet this need, and we actually created two different ways for users to enter that information depending on that use case or where the users are working. So for users on a PC, what you'll see here is that we have our plugin, and I have to log in on the other screen, so just one moment, apologize for that. You'll see we have this extra icon on the side panel here, and that's our meeting recap icon. So if you're a desktop customer, you may not see this icon, but I have added it. And clicking it, actually what clicking it did was it opened this box. So any sales reps or really any customer service reps, account reps, anyone who's interacting with customers on a regular basis, what we allow you to do is actually bring Salesforce fields and customizable questions right into your email application. And I have a trial version, so I'm just going to advance through this a little bit. So you can customize the information that you want your users to capture or input from their meetings. And you can do this with unique questions, with predefined answer sets, and even conditional logic, which makes it super easy for end users to put their feedback in, again, without going to Salesforce. Also, it'll definitely keep your information consistent across your users, since we all know people who enter a few words for notes or leave out details, and this would give you better insight into the health of accounts or even opportunities. So you can see here in my test version, we have a couple of options. So I can create accounts from here, I can update information, but I'm going to go ahead and show you what the meeting notes option looks like. And let me advance to the trial screen and make this a little bit bigger. So what we're going to do first is we're going to ask you to associate your notes with an opportunity. So I'm just going to select one, but you could search. And then depending on the questions that you've decided to build out for your teams, you can actually prompt them to input certain detail. All of this is going to be mapped back to a Salesforce field. So this is actually a call type. So perhaps I'm doing a demo, as I am right now. I may be asking them to enter the decision making. You can have multiple selections, of course. And again, demo data, but you can see you can ask all sorts of questions, and all the user needs to do is click quickly through. And in some cases, there may be date fields or text fields, but as they're completing this, what we're doing on the back end is we're actually mapping this back to specific fields. So we're even updating that close date or decision-making date for you. And when it's done, what we'll actually do is we'll write the fields to the data to the Salesforce fields. We'll also summarize all the information into the activity history. And we can even send managers a summary of what was input. So the result ends up being a true recap, as you can see here, of all the information from a call. I didn't have to type notes. I didn't have to put it into my own words. I literally entered all the information I got from the call, and we're going to populate those fields and generate that recap for you in Salesforce. Now, for teams that are on the go, we do have a mobile application that's going to work exactly the same way as what you just saw, and it works for Android and iOS. So users can go through the same questions from a mobile device. We get a lot of people even mention that they're able to enter the notes and update Salesforce by the time it takes to get back to their cars from a live one-on-one meeting. So if you have people out in the field or working on a Mac, you can certainly have them switch over and use the mobile version of it as well. And anybody interested in learning a little more about that or seeing the mobile app in action, I certainly have some materials on that I could share. Let me pause and just see if there are any other questions or anything coming through. I know I'm going through a lot. Let's go on to the last item that I had prepared today, and then we'll try to go through some of that Q&A that came through to us earlier here. The last example is a little bit of a switch because we've talked about email and we've talked about meeting notes. The last example actually relates back to calendars. So users tend to work within their email a lot more than their CRM. So that makes it easier not just to send communication, but also to manage their meetings and block calendars out. But many managers and even Salesforce admins need the calendar information back in Salesforce. Desktop and Cloud Edition can both help with calendar syncing. So when you're trying to decide which one might be the best fit, again, it depends on a few factors. Are all of your users PC-based? Well, if they are, then they'll probably want to go with the Desktop Edition because you'll also get the side panel and the other record features. If they're creating appointments from their mobile devices or they're working off of a Mac, then Cloud Edition will be the better fit, again, as long as you're on an Exchange server. In either case, Calendar Sync works almost the same way. At a high level, you set your sync preferences to tell either system how to automatically move the calendar items between Outlook or Exchange and Salesforce. For Desktop Edition, you'll get to the sync configuration up here in that configure box. Let's load this. And you'll see the sync tab here, We actually support more than calendar. We also support contact and task, but for the sake of today, we'll stick with calendar. And just in this little configure box, you're able to either establish a bidirectional or a one-way sync, depending on how you configure your prevent operations. Lots of customers just have it running bidirectionally, so you have identical calendars in both places, and no one has to wonder what the more recent version is. You can tell the system how many days back or forward to run, and once you enable it, click the box first, you can even come in here and tell the system how often to run, when to run, and when to know if you want it to notify you when it has run. Most of the time, this just runs in the background. So as I shut this off, you'll see a lot of folks come in, set this, and again, forget about it. Now, the calendar sync for desktop will only run during those windows and based on those rules when you have your PC on and open, because if it's off, so is LinkPoint. So when you turn it back on, it should run again. Now, users who want that running around the clock or on a more regular basis, or again, if you are on a Mac or on your mobile device, you'll want to come into your Cloud Edition. And we have a calendar sync option. So if we go into the edit screen here, you'll see that we have 3 enablement options for this. The first one sounds a whole lot like what I just explained for desktop, and you can just go ahead and sync all of the calendar items in both Exchange and Salesforce and set, again, the preferences for whether or not you want that to be bidirectional or not. Almost identical settings, just looks a little bit different. We do also offer the option to only sync calendar items where there's a matching record. And what that means is I have a lot of team meetings personally, and those are all internal. So if I select this option, my internal meetings will not sync to Salesforce. But calls I have with customers or trainings where I have an invitee that's also a Salesforce contact, those would sync. So you're going to get relevant related items versus all items with this option. The third one is a designate mode, and that's very similar to what I showed with the email sync. So you can actually put a category on a singular calendar item, and our system will only sync the items that you put that category on. So again, it gives you a lot of control. You're able to set this here. As an admin, you can set it at a higher level, lock it down, ensure consistent data syncing, and this will work anywhere you're working with those Exchange and Salesforce accounts. So when you're trying to get users to update their calendars for reporting, you do have 2 options. But again, it just depends on if you have interest in some of the other features, the platforms they're on, and what your workflow looks like. I do think that that actually relates back to one question that I saw come in from Tim previous to this call, talking about users that are traveling and need calendar sync when they're out of the office. Other solutions on the market don't handle that. So in that case, I would actually recommend the Cloud Edition, because you can set this to run, and you can see here, my sync will run 8 to 6 every 30 minutes, any day of the week I set. And as long as I'm connecting that Exchange and Salesforce account, that data is going to sync. So it doesn't matter if your computers are on or off, if you're in or out of the office. So it does give you more flexibility to be able to work sort of on the go or at your convenience. And a lot of us are working off of multiple devices as it is anyway. I'm going to check now and see if there are any other questions. I'm also going to triple check that I didn't miss any that were submitted during the registration process. I think I got everything that came through. Yes. So it does look like I've addressed all of the submissions that came in when everyone registered. I will sort of start to wrap up, but if anyone does have any other questions, you can certainly go ahead and send those my way. Let's just go ahead here and flip through the use cases. Okay. So before I end, I know I threw a lot of information at you and definitely went over a bunch of different use cases, but I do want to share that we have a variety of online resources that are available as you're either exploring your options or learning a little bit more about either how to use LinkPoint or what other options LinkPoint actually offers. You can visit our online knowledge base that includes step-by-step instructions and videos for all 3 of the editions. And you can also even check out, we have an editions page on our site in the navigation that I can also send out to everyone that includes a comparison of each of the editions in case you're trying to figure out what the best fit for your company is. Each edition does have a 14-day free trial, so if you're looking to evaluate the software for yourself or for your team, I definitely recommend that. Sometimes the best way to find the best fit for your use case is to try them. And if you would like any support with that, you can certainly contact us. Our support desk is available for any technical issues, and my team is on hand to consult one-on-one to help you find the right solutions or help you with adoption and rollout. Now, I do see that a question came through, so let's loop back and pick this up. So our license is based on named users. I have 5 cloud users, but 26 in all. Can I have a mix? So yes, you can have a mix of cloud and desktop users. Licensing works a little different for both. So with desktop, you're going to buy a set of licensed seats and you'll get a license key. And if you buy 20 of those, you can give the 20 to any 20 people that you would like. You can sort of handle that distribution as you'd like. To switch anyone from desktop to cloud edition, you just have to uninstall desktop and then make sure that your cloud account has enough licenses open on it for you to add the user. So user management in the cloud version is handled based on how many you've purchased, and then you as the admin can actually import those. So if you have one version of the software and you're looking to add another, the easiest way to get a clear picture on how to move your users, or even if pricing would be affected, would probably be to contact either myself or your account executive. And we do this all the time, so we're pretty comfortable taking a look at exactly your setup and then providing any support to move people from one to the other, along with any training, since obviously it's a shift in what the users are going to be used to working with. So Tim, let me know if that did or didn't help. Hopefully, I know it was a little bit of a roundabout answer, but absolutely we can do a mix of both for you if that's something that you are interested in. And if you're like me and the webinar ends and then you think of your questions, you can absolutely email customer success at LinkPoint360. I'm happy to answer those questions as you come up with them. Let's see. Can LinkPoint coexist? I have a number. Okay. Tim, in general, we recommend using only one solution for syncing. You can most likely keep the solution that you have in place for the email integration component and then add Cloud Edition. You just, especially if you're only looking to run the calendar sync, we just are going to want to make sure then that if you're using another third-party solution for one, that they don't have any overlapping functionality. And obviously, when people buy a combination of our products, we're able to help make sure the 2 tools don't sort of bump into one another. But if you're using a third-party solution, you would need to do some due diligence on your side to make sure that it's not also running any competing sync functions. That said, you can purchase Cloud Edition and just use it for calendar sync, and it should work perfectly fine. So again, unless the systems are going to conflict with each other, since I'm not familiar as much with what it does or doesn't do, on the third-party side, that'd be fine. But yes, definitely send me an email, a little more about your use case, and we can connect and sort of explore that. And again, probably going to recommend we do a 14-day free trial. For Cloud Edition, you get up to 5 users, so you can get yourself on board, maybe another stakeholder or 2 involved, so that you can decide if it's going to work with your specific workflow. Check here and see if there are any other questions, but again, like I said, you can go ahead and email at either of these addresses and we'll be able to help. Okay, it does look like I've caught everything. So I am going to wrap up here. I do appreciate you joining me today. I do hope that this helped demonstrate how our software can help solve a variety of those email integration challenges that come up. And if you're already a customer, thank you. And I look forward to working with you directly to either maximize the value of your subscription or help answer any other questions that you have. Thank you again for joining me.